that ever made it, one of the best that did it, come and win it. Understand this is all I think about, all I ever wanna do, all I ever worked for. So ain't no giving up, and up to the limit, just to win it is a must. Now you see what it takes to be on top, don't stop. Now you see what it takes to be on top, don't stop.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to World-Wide Laker Talk today. You're here with your host, Dane Wild, co-host Brandon Red. Quincy will be joining us a little bit later. We're going to jump right into it and start talking about the pregame. What is the Mamba mode we need to go into to get the Lakers the win in the second game of the playoffs? So, look, let's talk about this, man. Lakers are down one game, but we're not in unfamiliar territory. But adjustments will be made in game two. They made adjustments in the first round. Can you tell me what you feel like the similarities are in this round and in the second, between this round and the round with Portland, Brandon, and how they lost the first game there and came out a better team for the rest of the series? And how do you think it'll be different or similar this time?
Right. So the first game against Portland, like you said, they're not in unfamiliar territory because they lost that first game too. It's more of a fill-out game for them. Like a lot of people know this team has a lot of playoff experience individually, but together as a team, they don't have a lot of playoff games together played. So I think they go into the first game, they have to fill out each other and the new opponent. Now in the first series against Portland, they had more size. They had Hassan Whiteside still playing center. They had Nurkic was back playing center, so they did play somewhat of a traditional, NBA lineup. Now this team is much faster and smaller, and LeBron alluded to that after the game, saying this team's speed, they got a feel for it after the first game. So them knowing that, they know not to maybe take as many tough shots as they did the first game and let them run out and get easy layups and easy transition threes. It'll be an adjustment for them because they took a lot of bad shots the first game. I think they underestimated like those runouts, and like since Houston is so small, they don't want to play half-court game. They want to get out and run when a defense is not settled. So they watched the film from that, and obviously they saw that throughout the first game. So I expect them to be more responsible on the offensive end and not take as many tough shots throughout the game. So the first adjustment they got to make.
Yeah. All right. So Cam said Lakers must move Davis to the 5 and punish Houston down low. What do you think about that, Red?
Moving Davis to the 5. I mean, yeah, Davis, he has to be assertive in the paint. You got to punish those dudes. You got PJ Tucker guarding you. You know what I mean? You got to go down there and punish them for that. And like that alludes back to what I'm saying about them adjusting to the smaller lineup. So if they put him at the 5, and maybe I don't know who else would start at the 4 at that point. Maybe you bring in Kuzma at the 4.
If you bring in Kuzma, I think that means you got to bring in Deion Waiters a little earlier too.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I mean, we'll see the lineup adjustments that they make, or just the overall adjustments.
So what do you say to this though? What do you say to this? Because I know everybody wants to start AD at the 5, but the numbers from the last game shows that our plus minus was actually better when we had a center on the floor with AD. Our rebounding was better offensively and defensively, and even some of the shots we got was better with another center on the floor. So how do you balance that? Because I feel like we needed to utilize that size to keep them off the boards, and
Right. So that's my thing. I don't know if you start off AD at the 5, he should play more at the 5. What they need to do is, if they're going to have AD playing the 4, they have to utilize the pick and roll more with LeBron and AD, because it puts them in a situation where it's a mismatch either way. No matter what they decide, Houston, they're going to be in a mismatch because there's nobody that matches up well with LeBron as far as the size on the perimeter. And when AD rolls to the basket, there's nobody that matches up with him. So I felt they got away from that. I guess the zone took them out of the pick and roll with AD and LeBron, but that's an unstoppable play for Houston. They have no answer for that. And that'll force them to either double team, and that'll leave other shooters open, or that'll leave AD open, rolling to the basket for that mid-range jumper. So I think they need to utilize that more while they have JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard on the floor for spacing purposes. Dame, you there?
So Abdullah said rebounding was tied, which is ridiculous. And I agree with him. There is no way that the people that we have, we shouldn't be able to run them off the boards. And also, I want to talk about what Cam Phillips said. He said we need to run them off the three-point line, run them shooters off the three-point line. Karen says Brian needs to adopt the Mamba mentality and destroy everything in sight. So, and then Frank Gomez said they need to put heart into the game and stop playing so soft with him. You're hearing that a whole lot.
Right.
Mars said, at this stage of his career, we all know who LeBron is. To ask him to be something he is not is creating false expectations. At the end of the day, y'all need AD to be an alpha dog. And then Gene Dixon said, AD is just too damn soft. What do you say to that?
I don't think AD is soft. I think he has a tendency to fall in love with the perimeter game a little bit too much. Because we've seen him have dominant games from inside the paint, and you don't do that by being soft. I don't know if it's an issue with coaching, and they're not, when they get back to the sideline, they're not telling him, hey, get in the paint or whatever, stop falling in love with a 3-point jumper. But that goes back to LeBron as well too, as a leader, as the point guard of the team. Majority of the time, he has to tell AD, hey, bro, like, you got to get in the paint. Sometimes I've seen throughout game one, there were moments where he was just sitting in the corner, waiting for the corner three, because that's what the zone that Houston gives you. They give you open threes. So I think he gets enticed too much by those threes and maybe doesn't want to go down there and bang sometimes. And maybe it is a little bit of just being soft and not wanting to bang down low, because that's probably why he's more comfortable playing the 4 and not the 5. But we've seen him dominate, inside the paint. So the coaches need to let him know, you need to play down low, mid-range, mid-elbow, free throw line and below. And when the 3-point presents itself later on in the game, then take it. But don't start off on the perimeter, you know what I mean? So, and then to Karen's point about LeBron being, dominate everything, I don't think, like Mars said, he's not going to change his personality overall. But when LeBron has a smaller guy defending him, and it's a one-on-one situation, go to the paint, especially late in the to start. If you're not going to do it late in games, do it to start the quarter, start the third quarter, start the fourth quarter, and then that'll make the defense adjust to you. And then later on, you can be passive and look for the open jumpers for your teammates.
All right, let's go to what Karen said, too. She said they have to force Westbrook into forcing up bad shots as well, because we all know Russ is prone to force bad shots. And I want to talk about that because I feel like we let James Harden be way too comfortable in the first game. We let James Harden get all of his sweet spots. The only person I saw pushing him to the right was Kyle Kuzma. Everybody else was letting him go to his left with ease. Dwight Howard got a couple of super dumb fouls with the contact that we know Harden creates. What can they do to better funnel him the other way or get the ball out of his hand? Because we do want to turn Westbrook into a one-man show, because that to me is the key to making this team null and void. Because once you turn Russell Westbrook into a one-man show, they're going to shoot themselves out of the game.
Out of the game. So exactly what you alluded to. I forgot you said you made the comment about Westbrook. Was it Karen?
Yeah, Karen.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And what the Lakers got to do is double Harden off of Westbrook's man. That's all you got to do. And that's going to let Westbrook have somewhat of a green light. And then that's when he shoots himself out of the game or shoots his team out of the game. So whenever his man, whoever that is, if it's Caruso, if it's Rondo, if it's whoever is guarding Westbrook, you say whenever Harden gets the ball, you go and double.
A hard double.
Yeah, hard double off of Westbrook's defender. And then that'll then Westbrook is going to pass back. Harden will pass back to Westbrook, and then that'll either let him take one of them long threes or get whatever he's going to do. But you take the ball out of Harden's hands for one, and you put it in Westbrook's hands. So, I was saying that the first game, like, why are they not doubling Harden off of Westbrook's man? And they were just letting him go one-on-one and getting them silly fouls and whatnot and switching everything, and that's not the way to defend him, because he's just going to get to the free throw line.
All right, so let's talk about what Abdullah's comment. I think you can see it down here in the bottom.
Yeah.
He said 0 points in the fourth is becoming AD's Achilles heel. Now, I want to talk about 0 points from AD and LeBron, and this is the first game that AD and LeBron has given us lackluster. I wouldn't say mediocre, lackluster fourth quarters. How are we going to fix that? What do we need to do about that to make sure we got to have one of those guys being aggressive in the fourth quarter in order for us to have a chance in any game?
Going back to the point that you made earlier, that was one of our comments. I think it was Cam. That's when AD needs to be at the 5. In those points in the critical moments of the fourth quarter, AD needs to be at the 5, punishing that small Rockets team. He needs to be down low because there's nothing they can do with him in the fourth quarter. All they can do is foul him, and he's a great free throw shooter. So if you're at the 5 in the fourth quarter and they can't guard you and you put him in foul situations, then you're at the free throw line, and everybody else benefits off of you being in the bonus. So that's at the time. The coaches need to, call a timeout, readjust, and then put AD at the 5 and Kuzma at the 4 and run a smaller lineup to close out a game.
Okay, so Frank Gomez with a great comment. He said another thing is when we down on the scoreboard, we be trying to catch up with 3s and bricks. We need to make plays and catch up with 2s, and we did that a lot, taking very terrible untimely 3s. Like there was a couple of times, I know Quincy mentioned it in the game blog, that there was a couple of times that they came down, shot 3s without AD even touching the ball. That should be a no-go. That should be a non-starter. But Quincy, thank you for joining us. This is our other co-host, y'all, Quincy Q Belafonte. So I want to talk to you about something that we were talking about earlier. People were saying AD is being soft in the middle, but I want you to talk to people from a coaching standpoint about why he wasn't able to just take advantage and wreck shop in the middle like people think they were. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, yeah. What Houston is doing, they front AD with Tucker, and then what they have is even with KCP or Danny Green try to clear that side and cut through to the weak side, James Harden is not following them. He's just standing right behind AD. So what they have is you have Tucker front AD and Harden is behind him. And so what they're doing is they're leaving KCP and Danny Green wide open. That's why they're getting wide open shots. There was another clip where you saw Rondo. They're purposely leaving people open. And collapsing on AD. And that's going to be a blueprint of how to play the Lakers until the Lakers shooters start making shots. But I think also what I was telling my son, I said, don't look at the ball. Look at what's going on away from the ball, because that will give you a clear indication what's going on. And I think what the Lakers need to do is AD is just not going to be able to just sit on the block and post up for the reasons I just explained. He's going to be going against 2 or 3 people. And plus, the Laker guards are not the best at throwing the ball in the post. So, but to me, what I think they need to do is have AD on the move. He got to be, because it's a lot harder to cut somebody. To double team somebody that's 6'11", cutting to the basket, constantly moving, versus him just being stationary and posting up on the block. That's just not going to happen because how Houston is playing. Houston pretty much saying, you know what? KCP and Danny Green going to have to hit shots for us to change our defense.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And so what's happening is, and I knew it was going to happen, it was about 2 or 3 possessions in a row. AD didn't touch the ball. I said, watch, he's going to start coming out now because that's the only way he's going to get the ball. So what ended up happening is he don't touch the ball for 2 or 3 possessions. Then he come out the perimeter. Now we have poor spacing, and it's a lot Houston for. It's a lot easier for Houston to defend us because our spacing is so poor. Sometimes one player was able to defend 2 Lakers at the same time.
Right, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier before you joined, Quincy, when I was telling Dame that I think the Lakers need to have more pick and roll action with AD and LeBron, because like you said, you can't defend him. When you have a pick and roll situation with LeBron, that's a mismatch waiting to happen because whoever's going to guard LeBron is going to be smaller than LeBron, whether that's Westbrook or Harden or whoever. And whoever's guarding AD out of the pick and roll, whether it's PJ Tucker or Covington or whoever is guarding AD at that time, is going to have a mismatch, and it puts AD in motion as opposed to being stationary in the pick and roll. So now you got to make a decision which mismatch you want to, you want to give AD the basket, or you want to let LeBron go one-on-one against somebody on the perimeter after AD's cleared out. And then, so that's goes to just having him in motion because, like you said, they front him on the block, he can't get the ball. And a backside defender's not leaving, and they force the zone that they're playing entices the Lakers shooters to shoot. Is what I was telling Dame earlier.
Exactly.
So that they're playing into their defense.
And you know what? And a lot of our turnovers came from trying to force the ball inside. Right. You can force the ball inside with 4 players sitting in the paint.
Right.
You're going to get turnovers, and like you said, and you have to constantly make to me, we make that adjustment in the Portland series Well, we put LeBron in the post, and AD was the one cutting off the perimeter.
Right.
It's a lot difficult to double team him and triple team him like that versus just putting him on the block and just think you're just going to do it the old traditional way because how Houston is playing. Because Houston is, like you said, Houston is pretty much saying, look, Danny Green, KCP, Kuzma, yeah, we know they can hit threes, but they got to do it consistently for us to change our defense.
So that I'm glad you said that because that brings me to Karen's question. So should Vogel make adjustments in the rotation to generate this offense?
Yes. I don't know what's the deal with Deion Waiters, but to me, you know, to me, Doc Rivers set the blueprint. The very first game of the season, Doc Rivers set the blueprint of how teams was going to play the Lakers. The good teams. They're going to leave shooters open. They're going to double and triple AD. And then they're going to say, hey, 35-year-old LeBron, can you still dominate one-on-one matchups continues throughout a game without burning out? You know, and the way how this team is built is built similar to the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. We had two superstars, and then we had specialists, shooters, and role players. And I brought this up to somebody today. Everyone talk about that 15-1 role. Robert Horry, 36% three. Brian Shaw, 35% from three in the playoff. Derek Fisher was 51% from three-pointer. That means every time somebody collapsed on Kobe or double stack off a D Fish, they was paying for it half the time. I mean, so that's how this team is built.
Right. Yeah, Rick Fox. I mean, we had dudes that were knocking down shots. You can go on and on.
Yeah.
Because Rick Fox was knocked down shooting.
I mean, we know Shaq and Kobe was the it, but it was, I mean, we don't go 15-1 without Derek Fisher shooting 51% from threes.
Right.
you know, so I don't know what to deal with Danny Green, but dude, you get $15 million. We paying you. I mean, and you're not even you're not even getting contested shots. Right. We just asking you to make open shots. These other guys have to do their job so it can open up for LeBron and AD.
Well, that leads me to another point that someone made to me earlier, and I was talking to them saying that this is a good playoff series for Quinn Cook to get going because he's a streaky shooter and can hit those shots that you alluded to, Quincy, with the past Laker teams when they had, you know, Brian Shaw and Derek Fisher hitting their open threes when teams doubled Shaq and Kobe the same way that they're doubling AD and LeBron now. So Quinn Cook, you guys, how do you feel about him getting some run along with Deion Waiters going forth in this series?
Yeah, well, I get the concern because, you know, Vogel is looking at defense when it comes to KCP, Caruso, and Danny Green. I think you could kind of balance it out to where, like, you don't put Deion Waiters and Quinn Cook, you know, together in the backcourt where you can mix it up where you got a Caruso, Danny Green with Deion Waiters or, you know, Quinn Cook in there with KCP and Caruso, where you don't necessarily have to put Quinn Cook back there with Rondo. I mean, shit, we saw when you know, earlier in the season when for some reason Vogel had Troy Daniels and Quinn Cook in there against the Clippers in the first game of the season. We all was like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a way you could balance it out, but at some point, Tucker's pretty much sitting in the key for like 30 seconds, like the whole shot clock. So we have to figure it out. And like Karen just said, Cook got playoff experience. So we need some shooting, but I don't get why like someone like Deion Waiters, because if you have two or three people on AD, that means LeBron got one-on-one matchup, and then you put somebody with Deion Waiters. I think Deion Waiters to me could go at Eric Gordon one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, or even James Harden. It's not like we telling Deion Waiters to challenge Kawhi. You know,
right?
So I don't know. We got to see what the adjustments are, but I definitely think we need more. I mean, although we bigger, we need to move. We're not there. There's no movement, And so it's just making it easy for for Houston to be stationary.
Well, I want to talk about that too. I'm glad somebody brought up Quinn Cook and Deion Waiters. One, I agree with you guys. I think we need to have Deion Waiters just because you have another man in there who could break down his man, and that could open up the whole defense, the whole offense for everything. If you have one more person, like you said, because if they're going to double LeBron, they're going to shade AD like that, and you have Deion Waiters who could break down his man one-on-one. They cannot play on those two guys like that the whole game if you got a third person who could break their man down. He's literally him and maybe J.R. Smith sometimes when he ain't off that Henny. We have two guys who can come in and break their man down on their own one-on-one. We didn't have enough because Kuzma's not going to break James Harden down on a one-on-one. KCP, he damn sure better not try to break his man down one-on-one. You know what I mean? So because of and Rondo,
that's not Danny Green's game.
That's not Danny Green's game. And Rondo, he can do it, but he's gonna miss the shot. And he had 25 minutes in the last game, which I think was way too much. Which brings me to our next point. I've seen some very suspect things happening with our damn rotation in that last game. And I know Brandon Red, you alluded to this in the group. You was talking about how in the first game of the LeBron likes to fill out the other team in the first game of the playoffs because he said their speed was a lot different than Portland, and so they were still playing at Portland speed, and they didn't really understand how quick their hands were, how fast they were, and how strong they were in the post, right? So what are some of the things that you saw that felt like a filling out from Vogel that had you like, yo, what the hell? Also, good point, Antoine. Antoine Sheffield said also Caruso was in foul trouble. Oh
yeah, he did get in foul trouble. But to go to say that was Antoine's comment to comment on that. That's when Vogel needs to go to those other guys we just touched on earlier. If you need to be prepared for your players to be in foul trouble, there's no secret that Harden gets teams in foul trouble. Like that's like when they had the 4 or 5 days to prepare for this series, or when they found out Houston was going to be their next opponent. You got to prepare for Caruso being in foul trouble, for Rondo being in foul trouble. I think Rondo played 34 minutes that game, his first game back. Like I don't understand why Deion was not getting in the game. He's already been with the team. Quinn Cook, JR, they've been with the team. You rather play Rondo, who was just getting his first game back. So Vogel's rotation needs to improve throughout this series because the first game, granted, some guys were in foul trouble, but he was. It seemed as if he was surprised that guys were in foul trouble, and that was something going into the game that we knew would happen.
But also, too, I will say he had some very big mistakes he made with his rotation in that fourth quarter when we were only down 6. We were only down 6 going into the fourth quarter, and he was doing some experimental shit that I didn't understand for the life of me. Quincy, what do you think that could have been, or do you think he just was filling shit out, or at that point?
I think he tend to overcoach sometimes. I thought he brought Rondo in. We was only down by 2, and that's when the separation began to happen because that's to me that last 3 minutes, like Brandon said, that could have been a nice little spot for Deion Waiters or Quinn Cook because what Houston started doing, they started leaving Rondo wide open.
Yep.
And so at that point, once you see that more than once or twice, that is what is designed. And Jay Will have pointed it out, even when Rondo had a ton of space and lane that he could have took inside or dished it, he still went for the 3. So he basically gave Houston what they wanted. That's Rondo shooting wide open 3-pointers.
Okay.
As far as the rotation, like I said, I don't understand. To me, if Danny Green and KCP not hitting, why not give Waiters a chance earlier in the game? Let him get his legs. You can't throw the man in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, very few players I've seen being able to pull that off. But Brian Shaw, Phil Jackson did that to him throughout the season. So when it came in the playoff, that wasn't new to B. Shaw, that he knew he was going to get into the fourth quarter.
Right.
Whereas Waiters, that's kind of never really been his thing. So to me, if you're going to put Deion Waiters in, I wouldn't wait till the fourth quarter. The moment I saw that Danny Green or KCP, one of them was 1 for 5, something like that, I'm going to give Waiters a look and see what he could do. But, as far as the fourth quarter, I think to me, that's kind of more on LeBron than AD as far as taking over, because once again, AD is relying on perimeter players to get him the ball. LeBron is actually getting one-on-one coverage most of the time. And this is where, LeBron haters ain't gonna like this, but this is where we get into you having a post game and the mid-range game when the team just not gonna let you just drive all the way to the basket, but you have a shorter guy on you. Because there's no way Eric Gordon should have been able to get away with guarding LeBron James one-on-one at all. I mean, AD got two people on him before he touched the ball. I mean, LeBron, and that's why I said this team is so, to me, similar to Kobe and Shaq, because that's what teams used to do. They used to say, okay, cool, well, we're going to play Kobe one-on-one. Well, we already know what his mentality was. Okay, cool.
Right.
You going to put all them people on Shaq and you going to play me one-on-one? I'm going to tear your ass up. And that's how he became the player he was in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So, I want to address this from Frank Gomez. Thanks for commenting. He said LBJ and AD needs to know how to find each other. They be having way too many turnovers in between them, and that brings me to the next point, a bigger point. To me, the third star for Houston Rockets in that last game was turnovers. It wasn't a player. 16 turnovers, 27 points. That's the difference in the whole game. You clean that up. As terrible as we played, you clean that one thing up. Even with LeBron not scoring in the fourth, with AD not scoring in the fourth, with no other role players, if you clean that one thing up, we still win this game. If you cut those turnovers in half, we win this game. What do we have to do to clean up those turnovers going into game two?
I mean, for one, like what Quincy said when he first joined, you cannot force the ball to AD on the block. You can't, because like he said, that backside defender is not leaving once he's not clearing out. So they're waiting to double AD even before he's getting the ball in the post. They need to put AD in motion to get him the ball, for one, and stop with the careless entry passes. Because like Dame said earlier, we don't have the players that are just adept to throwing post passes. You know what I mean? I think other than Rondo and LeBron, I mean, who else can throw like a good post entry? You know what I mean? So that's the main thing. And you can't turn the ball over against the Houston Rockets. That puts them where they want to go. That's in transition. Those transition threes are easy to get. They don't got to go against a set defense. Yeah. They want that. That's what any team that D'Antoni has ever coached that loves turnovers. That puts them in their sweet zone of getting those transition open threes. So my point is the post. I don't know if any other turnover issues were happening other than that, but those post entry passes are horrible.
And then it was just some of the passes was just flat, nothing behind them, not a good angle. You know, that to me that was just laziness and lack of focus on a couple of times. They just
do you think the layoff that they had one game within the last 10 days because of the boycott?
Yeah, I was concerned too. I was concerned about that. I don't think we do good with time off, as the bubble has showed. We're not a good time off team. I think we're a team that have to constantly be playing. We're a very rhythm team. We rely on our rhythm. And the moment that rhythm is broken, it takes us a minute to gather it back. It's kind of like an important series. Once we got the rhythm going, you saw what we could do. But time off to us is not a good thing. Most vet teams kind of rely on time off. I don't think the Lakers is one of them.
Yeah, that makes good points. Okay, so we talked about what the Lakers need to do offensively and defensively. But against Harden, coming to the series, we knew that Harden was going to cause foul troubles. And if he has a high-scoring game, that puts them more in a position for success and to get a win. We want Westbrook kind of handling the ball more. So what do the Lakers have to do to defend Harden better going into tonight's game?
Wait, before Quincy answer that, hold on. Before Quincy answer that, we got to talk about Harden's post-game interview, because his post-game interview was so disrespectful to our star player. He said, they said they keep calling our team small, and I don't care if you 7 foot or you got a bunch of 7-footers. If they ain't got no heart, it don't matter. I feel like if they don't come out and punch these dudes in the mouth metaphorically in this game after hearing what Harden said and disrespecting them, I might have to lay that soft label on Anthony Davis.
You know what? I think that was towards Dwight Howard. With the subs, he was throwing that CP3 in the previous playoff series. Now, him and Dwight Howard, their history, to me, it was kind of like, yeah, you have a big, but that was kind of the criticism of Dwight Howard. But to me, like you said, as a Laker team, at any Laker big, I would take that personal. But I think that was a direct shot at Dwight Howard. Since their relationship with Dwight leaving, being in Houston, then
see, the way I heard it, I feel like he was talking about AD and LeBron too. Honestly, I feel like you got all them big dudes over there, and y'all can't do nothing with us. Like we let PJ Tucker stop LeBron, and I was like, they literally had Harden on AD for a few possessions.
Yeah, they did, and it could have been directed at Dwight, but I mean, it definitely was some whiteboard material, they call it. The coach can put that on, and whoever gets offended by, whether it be AD or whoever. I mean, for me, even if I'm playing and I know I'm 6'10", 6'11", and you're not even talking about me, talking about Dwight, I'm gonna take offense to that because I'm a big man, and you trying to say I don't have heart. So yeah, I would definitely say AD got to come out and respond to that.
But see, you got to have people that's gonna give you the ball. I always think about when Shaq dunked on Bynum, right? What's the first thing Kobe did? Now, we all know Kobe. Kobe will go back down and jack one up. No, Kobe was like, no, Bynum, post his ass back up. You don't let nobody dunk on you like that. And he fed Bynum the ball. So hopefully, when they see that switch of AD on Harden, that we give AD the ball down there, and KCP don't take a contested 3-pointer like he did the one time. AD was jumping up and down with he had Harden on him, and KCP shot a contested 3.
Yeah. Right, but that goes back to your point earlier though of them not having success throwing entry passes in. I think KCP took that contested 3 because he had been so used to just taking the 3 and not even looking in the post, getting those turnovers, that Houston's defense kind of lulled him into a false sense of take this 3 as opposed to there's actually open post game. So they need to just play their game and stop letting Houston's defense dictate what they do. They need to make Houston react to them.
Well, yeah. See, that's why I feel LeBron needs to be more aggressive attacking because he's the one getting the one-on-one coverage.
Yeah.
He's the one getting the one-on-one coverage. He has to make them pay. But to get to your point as far as defending Harden, I thought they shaded to his left too much. Like I know he's left-handed, but all he was doing, he would kind of like snake the ball over, put it in his right, and come right back left because they were overplaying him to his left. Just play him straight up. I would play him straight up because they were sitting on his left-hand side, but they were like totally overdoing it to the point where he'll start with his right, then he'll just bring it back over to his left. So I think the way how he defended, and then he'll get the contact when he come back left, and that's the foul. Mm-hmm. So what I would do, I just play him straight up. Play him straight up and don't reach.
Would you double him off of Westbrook's man?
Yeah, I would. Shit, do them like they doing them. What Westbrook shoot on the season for threes? Like 25%?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah, I would. Because one thing I like about Westbrook, I told somebody, if Westbrook even if he made 2 or 3, I'm happy. Cause I know his ass gonna keep shooting.
Exactly.
That's what I want. And you know what? I would do it early, hoping Westbrook made 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. Because you know what? Don't overreact and stop doubling. Because what he gonna do, he gonna keep shooting that shit. I would rather Westbrook take 10 threes than James Harden.
Right. Exactly.
Well, all right. So let's get to the next point. Close game in the fourth. AD has to assert himself and dominate. The role players have to hit some timely jumpers. That's always been the case on LeBron-led championship teams. The other star is the closer, and the role players are hitting the clutch jumpers. What will be the formula to success for this team, Brandon Red? The same way you talked about the Cleveland Cavalier team had Kyrie as the closer. That Miami Heat team used Bosh and Wade as the closer. And when he was in Cleveland, he never had a closer, so he couldn't really get it done. What is going to be the formula and the key for us to close here not just in this series, but if we get past the series, going through the rest of the playoffs, what is the formula for the fourth quarter and for us as closers?
Well, the formula is what we touched on earlier. AD has to get his ass in the that's when he needs to dominate the post. The paint, he has to dominate in this series, especially against a team with no center. And going forward, when we play the Clippers in the next round, if we get to the finals, AD has to punish teams in the post because he's a good free throw shooter and he has a post game and he can score in the paint. So even if teams can't stop him, like Houston's probably not going to be able to do, and they have to foul him, he can hit his free throw shots. Other role players have Kuzma. Danny Green got to wake the hell up because you're going to be needed to hit those open shots because in the fourth quarter, LeBron's looking for you to hit those shots. That's just what he does. I mean, game one against the Warriors in the finals, he was looking for Kyle Korver. He missed it, but he's had players like that throughout his career to hit those timely jumpers. You can go 0 for 6 and you hit that 1 or 2 jumpers in the fourth quarter as a role player, then all's forgiven. But KCP got to come through, Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, and AD has to dominate the paint within those fourth quarters in these playoff series and moving forward.
What about you, Quincy?
I would like to see AD start catching the ball, working the mid post. Because like we said earlier, he can't really post up on the block because that's in the teeth for the defense already. But mid post kind of allow him to have a little bit more spacing, and it makes it a little harder for a team to double team. He also got to make his move a little faster because the moment he takes too long when he hold the ball, he reads the defense. By that time, they didn't already shift it, and they kind of set on him. And now we kind of have like a stationary type of situation. So
yeah, I love you made that point, man. That's why I missed the games being on Spectrum because Stu Lance would always touch on that. Like we get the ball, AD go, stop, jab step and just get the ball and go. Yeah,
like pretty much you got to read it before you catch it type of situation.
100%, right.
You jump out there about that 12, 15 foot mark, face up, and then go, and don't sit up there and wait and see. What the defense is doing, because by that point it's too late. Also, I think that's where waiters have come in the fourth, because LeBron always had a perimeter closer with him. When he was successful, it was Dwayne Wade, it was Kyrie. He had somebody that in the end they could break. J.R. Smith, somebody who could break down a man in the end, and he really didn't have to worry about closing as far as, because we already know LeBron is insecure about his free throws. So that's why he really don't like going to the basket late in the fourth quarter, because he don't want to be on a free throw line. So we can't change that. Is what it is at this point right now.
Right.
So what we have to put somebody in who's not afraid of those moments, who's not afraid of taking that basket. When teams does decide, look, fuck that, we're not going to let Anthony Davis beat us, and we just going to put 3 people on him, who else out here going to break down a man and score? I say that's where Deion Raiders have to come in. To tell you the truth, I don't get the point of having him on the roster, because that was the point of putting him on the roster, because we had no other playmakers. We had no other shot creators. So Deion Raiders, but now that we sign him and we need what he's given, you're not putting him in. So the shit not really making sense. What Vogel's doing as far as Deion Raiders, or even J.R. Smith, because J.R. scares me in the fourth quarter. So I kind of J.R. scares me in the fourth. So I would put J.R. one of the people that you put in early to kind of gauge where he at. But I definitely wouldn't wait till late in the game to decide this is going to be the first look we give him.
Yeah. Because you definitely don't know what you're going to get with JR. You don't know.
But something else that I think we don't do that we did it briefly is that set screens for AD.
Yeah.
Because his handles, I mean, he's like a 6'11" guard. I mean, we set some screens for him as well. Because him coming off a screen is a nightmare, and he's a good enough passer, and we already know he can finish. and you know, within that 10 to 12 foot range, he could shoot. So I would like to see us set some screens for AD because we did it. I don't even think it was on purpose. So we did it in the last game, and he ended up with Eric Gordon, and he just shot a fadeaway over him at the free throw line. I don't know if I remember that play.
I
I do.
Yeah, he just shot a fadeaway over him from the free throw line. So I think we could also set some screens for him as well. Because he got the handles enough. He could go either way. So I just think we just need to be more creative. It's like Boo Boo remind me he's one of them defensive minded coaches, and I see why like they felt the need for Jason Kidd and shit now because it's like he's like one of the defensive. He's like a Mike Brown to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like remember Mike Brown? Like those Cavs teams was good defensively, but they were so fucking they were so predictable.
Right.
Offensively. Yeah.
And I think Vogel had way more weapons than Mike Brown could imagine.
And I thought Vogel was a lot more creative as the coach in Indiana and earlier in the season. Honestly, like we talked about some of the things he did early in the season to get AD on the move. We talked about some of those double back cuts to get those shots. There was a couple of plays that we ran in the overtime against the Dallas Mavericks that got us that big bucket at the end and got us moving with Dwight Howard in the middle. So there were some plays that we have been running that I have not seen in the sets since we started this playoff. I haven't seen those double back screen action plays. I haven't seen that play where you take Dwight Howard and he comes in, he sets the screen, and he always ends up either Dwight or JaVale, and they get those alley-oops. I haven't seen those plays run, and I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why. But like you said, Quincy, we have to move a lot more, not just AD. I think we have to have a lot of more moving action because the games where we were really smashing teams are the games where we had that real good movement, real good cutting action, because that movement and cutting action got Caruso easy buckets. That movement and cutting action even got Kuzma in the middle of the floor where he likes to hit that little floater. We haven't been running that action. It's been a lot of standing around, waiting, back and forth, waiting, post in, post out, waiting without no real movement. So if you do that against a team like the Houston Rockets, who have all these quick hands defensively, you're gonna get a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, but also when you constantly moving, got people cut to the basket, you got a team with no shot blocking. So once you get there, ain't nobody really there to contest your shot. You know, PJ Tucker is 6'6", 250. So so once you get there and you got all these 6'11", 6'9" players cutting to the basket, there's really no Clint Capella back there that's going to challenge your shot. So it's just a matter of getting to the basket that we need to work on without LeBron taking like 6 dribbles and shit like he Anthony Mason.
Right.
All right, so before we get out of here, let me know what y'all think. I'll go back over the Mamba Mode keys that we had. What are y'all personal Mamba Mode keys for this game?
Who taking it first? Quincy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. To me, LeBron got to take advantage of his one-on-one matchup. I mean, he got to take that shit personal. If they gonna sit up there and they gonna put 2 or 3 people on AD, leave shooters open and play him one-on-one, he has to take that matchup personally. And not 20 points. He has to dominate that matchup. Like literally make them pay for putting Eric Gordon on him one-on-one or anybody. Because Westbrook, James Harden, none of them could guard him one-on-one. So he has to take advantage of that one-on-one matchup. Secondly, our shooters got to hit shots. We have to, wide open shots. Our shooters, they have to hit shots. If we want them to come out that paint, they have to hit shots. And AD have to be patient. He can't get impatient to where he don't get the ball. Then he comes all the way out to the perimeter to get the ball. Now our balance and spacing is poor. He has to be patient and also don't be afraid to face up and use. One thing I used to love about Kobe is once you put somebody 6'2", 6'3" on him, he's just gonna face up and elevate over you and shoot.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the move I would love to see AD start doing. Catch that shit about 10, 12 feet out. You got somebody 6'5", 6'6" on you, just elevate over and shoot. And go from there. And then once you hit that a couple of times, that next one, that about third or fourth one, that pump fake, you go into the basket for a dunk.
Exactly.
So that, and then last but not least, I think we need to crash the boards. Houston, we even out 41-41 on rebounds.
Right.
That to me, that's a victory for Houston. That they had the same amount of rebounds as we had. They had 4 offensive rebounds, which is not bad, but we only had 10. I think we could get more if more people crash the boards, because what they doing, they're kind of gang rebounding.
Right.
So they got about four people crashing the boards. AD can't be crashing the boards by itself. I think we could get more offensive rebounds if we have more players also crash our boards, but they shouldn't be even with us on rebounds at all.
At all. That was unacceptable. Frank Gomez had a great comment. He said, first game, Rondo was trying to make plays running the floor. Cool. But take in mind, that was his first game in a while. Do we think that Rondo will make it happen in this series?
I do.
As a playmaker, yeah. As a playmaker for sure.
I have to go by his resume. His resume tells me he's going to fix it. He almost single-handedly orchestrated Chicago eliminating Boston that year.
Yeah.
And then he went to New Orleans and he led that New Orleans Pelican team to sweep the Blazers out, along with AD, to sweep that Blazers team out the playoff as a 6th seed. So Rondo has a resume everybody praised the way how much he watched film. So I'm sure what we saw, he saw.
Right.
I think he'll make the proper adjustment.
All right. So let's go back over it one more time before we got Oh, thank you, Frank. Frank said we're giving a hell of a pregame show. Thank you. Like I said, this is World-Wide Laker Talk, and we talked to Eric. Shout out to Eric Hammond. He said he wanted to do Laker Talk for us, by us, from Laker fans and the Laker perspective. So that's why we're doing this show, Frank. So we wanted to give our fans somewhere to go, somewhere to talk, and we can even see and hear y'all comments too. So y'all can be involved in the show, because y'all input is important, because we all fans and we all feel this way about our team. So let's go over to Mamba modes to win this game before we get out of here. Lakers, we have to adjust. We cannot do the same thing we did in that first game. Like Quincy said, we got to crash these boards. We got to move around. We got to get AD on the move. Playoff rotations. Vogel, you got to do a better job. Get Dion Waiters in there a little bit earlier. Give me a little bit more of J.R. Smith. Let's get some different movement going around here. And then let's just do better with even the guys that we used to having on the court. Let's put them together where they're supposed to be, because we have some rotation where those guys aren't even usually on the court together. So now is not the time for that experimentation. Third, Mamba mode point. Defend Harden a different way. Don't give them all of those fouls. Don't shade them too much to the left, like Quincy said. And number 4, and the final point, the Mamba mode to win tonight's game is close the game out. In the fourth quarter, we need somebody to close the game out. And we cannot, in no way, shape, form, have both of our superstars with 0 points in the fourth quarter. And you guys, even if y'all shots not falling, y'all got to keep being aggressive and keep pressing the issue. Push that Mamba mentality. We want to thank everybody who joined us for our first Worldwide Laker Talk. We're going to be back for the post game Monday, 8/24. That's right, 8/24. Monday at 8/24, we're going to do Worldwide Laker Talk post game show. So if y'all like the show, spread the news, share the show, let everybody know. We're going to be doing this for the World-Wide LakerGang for life, guys. And we're going to get you guys all the information you need, and all the scouting reports you need to get through your Laker game, to get through your Laker steez, and to get through these hard days when we lose and those good days when we win. Yeah. So tonight, we're looking for a win. Go Lakers. We see y'all next time.
Peace out.
It's about what, doing it big or going home. I'm focused on my plan, in my mind in the zone. I want to be one of the greatest that ever made it, one of the best that did it, coming with it. Understand this is all I think about, all I ever want to do, all I ever worked for. So ain't no giving up, and up to the limit, just to win it is a must.